Yeah, we're just cruising along this fine Saturday morning. Cover Your Assets team. Todd Rickard, Derek Walgrave, Craig Nestor, all at your service. We're talking about investment property in this new now, very different than it used to be, and a little foreclosure defense, and how those things really relate together. You're welcome to join us live if you'd like at 855-835-8500. But to get to know us starting out, go to CYA21.com, and you can meet the team there as well. So, Derek, we were talking some really interesting putting people together scenarios with investment properties, contract for deed buyers, and things like that. Why don't you start over and describe who those people are just a bit more?
Well, again, when we start out with investors, we're making the assumption, and again, I'm using the single family, townhome investment type situation. Mm-hmm. We are taking the assumption that investor is going to get a renter, and so when we're basing that income and the cash flow analysis, just to go into a little bit further detail and just to simplify it, basically it's the amount of cash that they're investing versus the amount that they're getting back. That's where that ratio is, basically. And in the case of most cases, an investor will come in with 20% down. They'll get financing, and so when we do our analysis, we're figuring the cash and cash return based on their money that's invested. Okay, so again, the rental situation is what we're assuming. That's what the investor is looking for as a renter. But the more advanced way of looking at this is the contract for deed, which we were talking about this during our break, is a much more powerful scenario for an investor, because now we're going from a rental standpoint of a cash flowing analysis versus a contract for deed. And that's where Todd comes in. He's bringing in clients that have the ability to do this, to afford the home. They've had the hiccup, and now they're in a situation where they still want to buy a home, and the only way they can do it is on a contract for deed. The cash flowing is still there for the investor, and sometimes it's a better scenario because there's fixed appreciation, there's fixed investment sides of those things, and it works way, way better for everyone. And there's a commitment from that homeowner on the contract for deed where they know that, hey, this is our home. It's the contract for deed is our financing now. Our goal is to get end financing in 2-3 years when we're able, but it's our home, and it's a way better scenario because it's a long-term deal for the investor. It's a long-term cash flowing scenario for the investor. It just makes way more sense.
For people that have heard the term and they basically in principle get what it is, just give us a little more detail on what a contract for deed really looks like and how it's put together, because it's a real transaction.
The significance of a contract for deed is, number one, in the eyes of the IRS, it is considered to be legitimate home ownership, in so much as you may have a Wells Fargo or a Countrywide or Bank of America now, who has your loan. When you do a contract for deed with an individual, they in essence become your mortgage company per se. And in so much as the contract is written based on an interest rate, there's an interest write-off that you get just like you would as a homeowner, which is very significant when you're dealing with someone who makes a reasonable amount of income. It wouldn't be surprising to find a person who's got a $6,000 tax credit as a result of the interest write-off, which isn't surprising with people who are in home ownership. They often think when they walk away from their home, they're going to lose that. And in point of fact, you do not get that in lease with an option to purchase or rent to own, or obviously a straight up lease. So the contrast in a home that's $2,000 per month on a contract for deed, if you're gleaning $6,000 per year in a tax benefit or refund, that's $500 a month. A rental unit's got to be $1,500 per month just to compete with the $2,000 per month contract for deed. You've also got mental ownership from the side of the investor. That individual perceives that home to be theirs and consequently takes much, much better care of that home, and they've got a long-term concept behind it. So as you heard the commercial before we came on, we have investors who will use a portion of their retirement accounts. And being in the financial planning business, I want to be clear on this. We're not promoting an investment, meaning a registered security per se. You're investing in a house. You're buying a house. And so it's not a registered security. I want to make that point. But you can do that with a self-directed retirement account. In today's world, if you've got cash to work with, as in 20% down on a property, you rule the world, because almost nobody can do that anymore today. So many people have money locked up in an account that is a qualified self-directed account that would be available as a down payment to buy a piece of investment property and leverage that money and really make a substantial return. I've always believed you're going to buy real estate, you need to be able to walk up to and touch it on your way home. I don't like buying properties all over the friggin' country, to be honest with you, because
how do you really feel, Todd?
Well, yeah,
I mean, don't hold back.
Yeah, and it's problematic because you may have a management company who could be literally stealing your money and you won't know about it until it's way too late. When it's local, it's more of a hands-on approach. Now, maybe maybe that does or doesn't appeal to you. If it doesn't appeal to you, then the traditional investments, and we've got investment managers to help you with those things. But if it does appeal to you, then it is a way that you can really get your hands involved, have a real piece of property that you can walk up to and touch, and it can bring you a fantastic return on investment, and you can do it through a qualified account. So if you don't think you have money, if you've got a rollover, you can probably do that with a qualified account.
I don't think a lot of people had a clue that was possible, Derek.
Well, and it's funny because as we're talking about this particular property, the example I brought in was purchased through a self-directed IRA. And just to simplify that,
and Todd Grill, no less, who was just our commercial.
Exactly,
before you,
and which is a neat subject. And just to simplify that, it's basically what it's doing. A self-directed IRA. It's giving you your ability to spend your money or invest it in real estate or whatever.
You control it. I mean, you're able to direct those. We're not talking about taking a loan against a retirement account. We're talking about using the funds of the account to invest, and the investment just happens to be, as contrasted by a stock, a bond, a mutual fund, is real estate, not unlike it would be for a commodity like gold. So the real estate is the investment. This is not a loan against a retirement account. This is using the retirement account to do that. Having said that, when you set up a self-directed account, you are now in control of it. You're not the custodian, but you actually direct the custodian, unlike you would in an employment situation. So you get to pick, if you do take a loan, the amount of time that you will amortize the repayment of that debt, and moreover the interest rate, something that you have zero control over when you work for a major corporation. They determine that. Here you determine that. And
right.
You can make that payment more accommodating should you like to do that.
And see, I just learned that this was possible in the last couple of months as I've met the CYA team here. It's a fascinating way, seriously, just to make it absolutely simple. There are legal ways to literally take money out of your retirement accounts to buy real estate, and you need to have certain professionals evaluate the situation and make sure all the numbers and the legalities are taken care of, but it's absolutely possible. And that said, guys, when you hear the term investor, a lot of people sees that as someone outside of themselves, somebody sitting on piles of cash. Is that the case in all these?
No, absolutely not. I mean, and again, going back to the self-directed IRA, I mean, that's a perfect example of someone that has their money, they're watching it, it's not doing anything for them. I mean, they're looking at the returns on their and they're just like, look,
it's depressing.
Right, and why is it there? This is an opportunity for that individual to self-direct their money without taking the penalties, because you're not pulling money out of your retirement.
And the significance is the incredible return on investment that a person might be able to see. And this is not to be talking about pie in the sky stuff. But look, in today's market, if you talk with somebody like Craig, who does this ongoingly, where you're buying properties at share sales that are at $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, put $20,000, $30,000 into that house, rehab it, and sell it for $150,000, $200,000. That is all return on investment. You don't have to screw around with 1031 exchanges and all the such nonsense, because this is return on investment within the retirement account. And so it is an amazing option to be able to take advantage of. Obviously, you have to be smart in how you do it, but it offers an opportunity for an average individual to really control things and to see a pretty significant return on investment. And frankly, there's nothing like real estate to be able to build net worth. That's always been the case. That'll never change. And in today's market, more so than ever.
Right. And people have their money tied up in retirement accounts, and they see what's going on in the real estate market, and they're looking, God, I wish I could invest in this market, but I can't. I can't pull money out because then I'm being penalized for it. Well, here's an opportunity that you can transition this into a self-directed IRA.
And the last thing to remember about the retirement account is, remember, when you do your investing inside the retirement account, qualified funds. Now, this is, of course, going to be me, but remember, I wake up in the morning thinking that if everything goes goes bad, I was going to use the wrong terminology. Forgive me for that. If the world goes to the house of you-know-what, I want to know what I get to keep and what I'm going to lose. I can have $1 million in a qualified retirement account. That's SEP, KEO, Roth, 401k, IRA, 401k, 403b. I can carry $1 million through the bankruptcy process as exempt, and nobody can touch that money. Wow. So I could be screwing up everything outside of my account, and yet hey, man, you can make a pretty good start with $1 million in a qualified retirement account should everything go sideways for you tomorrow. So why in the world would you be investing outside of that? Why would anybody do that if they understood what I just said?
Right. And that's just it, and that goes back to protecting our assets. I mean that's the point of this, covering our assets and making sure that we are doing the right things with our money in any situation that we're in, and taking advantage of the opportunities out there.
Having done this for 3 years, I'm starting to see people come through the other side. So they are falling, they have a soft landing, and now it's time to rise again. And when you speak numbers like $1 million in a retirement account, it's a little bit much for them.
Yeah, it seems pretty intimidating.
Yeah, it's a little. It feels that way. It feels that way when they're just trying to. Now they're able to make ends meet and live within their means. But here's something that I'll give you a specific example. In the last 45 days, I've done this 3 times.
Okay.
Where a condominium was foreclosed on by the bank. So the bank forecloses on a condominium, takes the condominium back. There's a condominium in Apple Valley, sold for $179, foreclosed on for $99, and then the bank does not pay the homeowners association. The homeowners association forecloses on the bank for the $7,000, right, that's owed. I show up at the sheriff's sale, and I bought 3 of them, forcing the bank to either give me the $100,000 in equity that I just stole or pay me off. So they have to return my money, give me 6% interest, plus all my costs and fees associated with that transaction. So on $7,000, I was able to turn $1,500 3 times in the last 60 days. That's possible. You can start small and work your way up into these accounts that we're talking about.
Okay. Wow. The fall and the rise again of the American homeowner, just part of what we talk about here on Cover Your Assets. 855-835-8500. That number reaches the team absolutely all week long. 855-835-8500. Check us out also online at CYA21.com. More foreclosure defense and investments coming up.